Okay, it is Wednesday, September 22nd at about 10:45 a.m. and it's about 65 degrees Fahrenheit. This video is it's one I've long wanted to do. I'm going to be heading right there to the Gateway Arch, as you can see, because everyone who comes to St. Louis wants to go to the Gateway Arch. I came up here to the Cinder house at the Four Seasons to get a little elevation first to explain some of this up here. We got four major bridges that cars can go over. The Musial Bridge is right down there. You can barely see the edge of it. That opened in 2014. Over here we have the Martin Luther King Bridge. That opened in 1951. We have the Eads Bridge, which is a National Historic Landmark. That opened in 1874. And down further is the Poplar Street Bridge, which opened in 1967, the same year as the arch. And just beyond that is that steel truss bridge that you can see. Now that's just a railroad bridge. That's the MacArthur Bridge. You see the steel truss arches. It is in the top 20 for busiest railroad bridges in the country. Right in this area here, that's the mighty Mississippi. It's the second longest river in the country. The longest is the Missouri River, and they meet about 15 miles north of here. And right in this area, this is where Bloody Island was, where they used to have duels. It wasn't regulated by Illinois or Missouri, so people would go there. It just started to form out of nowhere from silt that deposited in the river in the late 1790s, and it ended up extending about a mile long, with the south end down there by the Poplar Street Bridge. And they had duels there. They had cockfighting, boxing matches, anything nefarious. There's three duels I want to mention. One of them was between two lawyers, Charles Lucas and Thomas Hart Benton. Lucas was only 24. Thomas Hart Benton was 35. And it was in 1817 in August. And it started out, they argued in arguing about a court case. Anyway, one challenged the other, and they shot each other from about 30 feet away. Charles Lucas got hit in the throat, but he survived. Thomas Hart Benton got hit in the knee. Some rumors started circulating from Lucas's friends that Benton chose that distance because he knew he could win, and so he re-challenged him the next month from a closer distance of 9 feet, and he shot Lucas in the chest and killed him. And at first he didn't forgive him, and before he died he said, I do forgive you, I can forgive you. So Thomas Hart Benton went on to become one of Missouri's first two senators for 30 years, from 1821 to 1851. He was elected by the state legislature, which is how it worked back then. We didn't start voting on United States senators until 1914. So that's one I want to mention. Another one was between James Shields and Abraham Lincoln. James Shields was the Illinois state auditor, and Lincoln wrote a letter to a newspaper, and the editor was the only one who knew the identity of who it was. And James Shields demanded that he give that information, and he found out. Now, Mary Todd Lincoln had wrote some other letters along with her friend that Abraham Lincoln, he didn't have anything to do with it, but he took credit for them, and they said okay, and they were going to have a duel over here. Now, Shields was only 5'9", Lincoln was 6'4", so he chose swords because he had a reach advantage. But anyway, they thought better of it, and when they got there, they decided to call it off and said, nah, forget about it, it ain't worth it. And they actually became good friends after that. James Shields was actually a United States Senator from 3 different states, Illinois, Minnesota, and Missouri. So that's an interesting thing. Now, the third one that I wanted to mention was between Major Thomas Biddle, a hero in the War of 1812, and Congressman Spencer Pettus. They killed each other from a short distance. We'll mention something about Major Thomas Biddle later on. They both had huge funerals and were incredibly popular. So now right down here, you see that building down there. That's the old Union Electric power plant. That was built in 1902. It became a city landmark in 1971, referred to as the Ashley Street Power Plant. So it was coal, then it was converted to natural gas. It was converted to oil in the 70s, and then natural gas in the 90s. And it still operates today. It creates electricity and steam to buildings downtown. And it did send electricity to the World's Fair in 1904 at Forest Park, which is about 7 miles west of here. So, and you can see it's very dirty from coal and dust and soot and stuff like that. So, and again, that's the Musial Bridge way down there. You can barely see the corner of that one. So right along there is Lenore K. Sullivan Boulevard, right along the river. She was a congresswoman before Richard Gephardt. It used to be called Wharf Street, and then they named it after her. So, and we've got, then it goes to 2nd Street, kind of in front of us here, and then 3rd and 4th as we go west into the city. 5th Street's called Broadway. So that's an overview from up here. That's the Martin Luther King Bridge there. And you see, if I'm getting it, the Eads Bridge is right down there. We'll get a closer look at that though. It's a National Historic Landmark, as well as the arches. There's 37 National Historic Landmarks in Missouri. 15 of them are in St. Louis. 14 here in the city and 1 in the county. So I'm going to cut out and go back to ground level and catch up again with you there. Okay, so we're down here on street level again. There's that old Union Electric power plant. Now that building was going to stay when they were going to build. That's where up on that north riverfront, that's where they were going to build the football stadium to try to keep the Rams. And some of that was going to be demolished, but that building was going to stay. Okay, so we're going to walk along down here. Hopefully we were able to see those bridges. I thought we'd get a pretty good view, but I don't know exactly how far away we were from up there. This here is the Lumiere Casino. There used to be on the river, it used to be a riverboat casino. The President Casino on the Admiral was the name of the boat. And it used to actually have excursions, and you could only board at certain times. Then we went to boats and moats, where it just sat there and you could get on at any time. Now we went to this. It is on water still, believe it or not. You'd never know it. It's on an 8-foot thick concrete raft, basically, on 1.5 million gallons of water, because that's the rule. It has to be on water, and it has to be within 1,000 feet of the river. So that's where we are right now. So we're walking down here. This is basically Laclede's Landing, named after Pierre Laclede, one of the founders of St. Louis. along with his 14-year-old stepson, Auguste Chouteau, who in St. Louis here we call August Shoto. You can see that sign there. Now here's the old cobblestone. It's a nightmare to drive over, but the horses don't mind it. They do carriage rides down here. They have repaved some of these sections, but this is 2nd Street. Going north and south, they're keeping the cobblestone here on 2nd Street, also on 1st Street down there. These other streets that run east and west, they replace the cobblestone with just regular concrete. This right here, you go across the street, get a little better view. This is the Paincourt Building. It was built in 1890. This building right here on the end with this blue. Go over here. Maybe I'll get a better view over across the street actually. And next to it here is the Feather Building. That was built in 1882, and it was named, they manufactured feather mattresses there. And then over here we have the Traders Building. That was built in 1868. They stored and blended whiskey there. It was rated as part of the St. Louis whiskey ring. And that's what that is. You see that iron, that is to protect the brick there. Here in front, I'll show you that. They used to back those horses in. They could back those horses right in, and that would protect it. So here again, you see this cobblestone here. Okay, let's see here now. This is the Wax Museum here. Got a lot of interesting things in there. You see all kinds of different things there. That opened in 1983. This building was built in 1885. Let's go down here, just see what we got down here. Now this here is called Raeder Place, this building right here. It was built in 1873. Now the interesting thing about this building is this is where the old Missouri Hotel was. And they had the first Missouri legislature there, and the first governor was inaugurated here. And you see, I'm going to show you this sign right here. That's what that is. I'll show you that cast iron over here on this front part. And this is the Cherrick Building here over on this corner. This opened in 1890, and it was a salvage grocery warehouse. This building right here. Now here down there you see the Mississippi River there, and you see the again, that's the Martin Luther King Bridge there. The Muddy Water Building, built in 1881. And First Street Ironworks, that's down here though. And this is where the Trainwreck Saloon was more recently. But that's what those buildings are. Okay, so we'll go and see what we can find back up here again. It's the old spaghetti factory here, opened in the 1970s. As a matter of fact, that sign says 1977. Now this is called Clamorgan Alley here. There were bodies stacked in here in this area, believe it or not. In about 1849, there was a cholera pandemic. You get that from dirty water, contaminated water and stuff like that. And James K. Polk, the president, actually died of cholera around that time. And there was also a fire down, the Great Fire of 1849, down on the riverfront. One of the boats crashed into a whole bunch of other boats. It was something like in a movie. That was a terrible time for St. Louis. It was a real disaster. And then it caught the levee on fire. It caught everything on fire. And that was a huge ordeal. One thing led to another. So we had that and a cholera pandemic at the same time. Now here on this is the oldest building down here. This was built in 1844. It's the Schoellhorn-Albrecht building. This is Morgan Street is what we're walking up here. In between, we just walked in between 2nd Street and 1st Street. This building here was built before the current street grid. And you see how these windows are sloped. They used to sell deck equipment for the gold rush. Now you can see here there was an underground cellar under here where escaped slaves, they hid while they were fleeing into Illinois. You see how it's real uneven here. You see it over on that side as well. This is Congressman Alley, is what that's called. This building here is also part of the current Morgan Street Brewery. This building was built in 1905. It's not quite as old as the other ones. So let's walk up here and see what we got. Now this right here, this building here was called the Levy House. It was built in 1900, and this used to be where the Planet Hollywood restaurant down here. If you remember some of the celebrities, Demi Moore and Bruce Willis, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, and that, they opened some restaurants. And it said Planet Hollywood right there on that sign. I did eat there. It was there between 1997 and 2006 in this building right here, which was called the Levy House. And again, it was a shipping company. They actually had passenger service. Here's another Laclede's Landing sign, and right across the way over there is the where the dome is. It was the Trans World Dome when it opened in 1995. Then it became the Edward Jones Dome. Now it's just called the Dome at America's Center. That's where the Rams played. Let me see here if I can get that sign, if you can see it. It says it up there. The highway's kind of blocking it, but that's what it is. Let me go over this way a little bit more. So the Pope was there in 1999. That was the largest indoor gathering that I know of. They had over 104,000 people for that. And they had the 2005 NCAA Final Four when North Carolina beat Illinois. We've had 2 NFC championship games there when the Rams beat Tampa Bay Buccaneers in January of 2000, and they beat the Eagles in January of 2002. And they won that first Super Bowl. They lost the second one. We also there was a Jehovah's Witness convention there in 2019. We just had the Olympic gymnastic trials there in 2021 for the 2020 Olympics. And they've also had many concerts there. Taylor Swift, trying to think of who else was there. I think Beyonce came to the Dome. Garth Brooks, I think that was the biggest one. I think he had about 75,000 people, if I can remember right. Yeah, so anyway, that's the dome there. Now another block down there, I don't want to get too far off the subject, but that's Washington Avenue, that next street down that way. So we're at Washington and 4th Street. Now at Washington and 7th Street, there was an African Methodist church there where there was a preacher who ended up becoming the first African-American United States Senator. His name was Hiram Revels, and he was a preacher at that church. Now they moved, and it's now called St. Paul African Methodist Episcopal Church. But he was a preacher there. He was imprisoned, for teaching and preaching, and then he went to school in Illinois, and he actually came back here again in the 60s, 1860s, and he started a school, and then he became the first United States Senator. It was about 1870, 1871, I think, from Mississippi. Again, he was elected by the state legislature, which is how it was done then. We didn't start voting on the senators until 1914. And so we'll walk along here and see what we can find here. As we're on the way, you see the arch up there. That's what we're on the way to. So yeah, this is Laclede's Landing. I could tell you more about that story, but well, maybe when we get up there. Okay, so we got the cast iron building here. That was built in 1873. There's a bakery in there now. See there. Oh yeah. This is the old Judge Coffee Building, as you can see there. This was built in 1884. That was built in 1884. You can still smell cinnamon and stuff from their floors. The coffee company didn't take over until 1918. This building was built in 1884. And at its peak, they produced 3 million pounds of coffee a month there. And right here, now this is an interesting building here. It says the Hoffman lofts are coming. This is the Hoffman Brothers Produce Building. And Betty Grable, who's from St. Louis, she was the #1 pinup girl in World War II and Hugh Hefner's inspiration. And she worked here in the summers. Her mother's maiden name is Hoffman. She's from St. Louis. Betty Grable and her $1 million legs. So she worked right here at the Hoffman Brothers Produce Building. It's built in 1883. And over here we have the Greeley Building. Let me get over here a little bit more. This was built in 1881, and it was a dry grocery store. They didn't sell alcohol there. And over here we have, on the end here, we have the Cutlery Building. That was built in 1882. This Cutlery Building right here. Now this is the closest. They have wedding receptions and stuff in there because it's so close to the arch. So it's really the closest venue to the arch. So people like it for that. Okay, so we'll keep going this way. Now we're really heading in here to the arch grounds. Now you see some of these signs here. You still see French signs around here showing their influence. It was mainly French. The Spanish did get St. Louis for a little while, and before we took it over. They say that they give it back to the French right before the Louisiana Purchase. So 3 different countries, I guess, owned St. Louis some people say within a day. I'll sit down here for just a second. That's where we're headed, to the arch. So it's built before the Brooklyn Bridge. A lot of the same principles were used when they built the Brooklyn Bridge that they learned from the Eads Bridge. And he had built some gunboats in the Civil War for the Union. James Buchanan Eads did, that could sit in shallower amounts of water, and that they were able to produce them fairly quickly, and they were very important. And when he wanted to build this bridge, the shipping companies, they didn't like that because they wanted to be the only way that you get across the river, and that obviously. So they were trying to shoot it down and make it impossible to build it. And James Buchanan Eads, he went and seen Ulysses Grant, who was the president. And he knew that he had helped him. And so he squashed the opposition. He said, "We're doing the bridge." He said, let Eads do it. And that's what it was. So, now when I mentioned Bloody Island, as a matter of fact, the person that worked on that was Robert E. Lee. He was an engineer. Well, I'm going to keep heading here towards the arch. He was an engineer. He was actually in the Army Corps of Engineers, and he's the one who worked on getting Bloody Island affixed over to the Illinois side. The water was real shallow on the Missouri side. It was deeper on the Illinois side, but he was able to, he built dikes and he was able to attach it over to the Illinois side. And as a matter of fact, let me get a little closer over there. There you see the Mississippi. There's the Eads Bridge through there. As a matter of fact, that Casino Queen there, over in East St. Louis, that's on where Bloody Island was. It was all along there. Now right down there, that's the Lewis and Clark statue. And the dog Seaman, who made the whole trip. In fact, I could go right down. I could just walk down here, I guess. There's steps in front of the arch, but I don't know how far away I would be from this statue. I don't know if I was going to come down this far or not. If we go down too far, we'll lose sight of it. But anyway, that's the Lewis and Clark. Of course, after the Louisiana Purchase, Thomas Jefferson commissioned them to take off and explore west. And here down there you see as the cars go across, that's the Poplar Street Bridge, and then behind it, even though it looks, they kind of meld together, but behind it is that steel truss bridge. That's the MacArthur Bridge. That's just a railroad bridge. So Poplar Street Bridge there is very popular, though. It goes along there. Sacagawea went with them. There's a statue of her at the Brewery Hotel downtown. She was very important to him because she could communicate with the Native Americans, speak their language. And her young son was with him, an infant son. So here we are again, coming up on the arch. Okay, well, we'll keep going through here. You see some geese out there. So these grounds were renovated. It just got completed in about 2018, I think. And they redid the museum underneath the arch and all that. So it's really nice down here. So this is the north leg of the arch here. Now the interesting thing about this is William Clark owned this land, and he lived here, the explorer from Lewis and Clark. And he also owned a building that he rented to Dr. William Beaumont, who was the father of gastric physiology. He knew a lot about that and human digestion, which is still relevant today. He slipped on icy steps is how he died, Dr. William Beaumont. But he was also living here. Here's a good shot of the arch. And he has hospitals and schools named after him and all kinds of things. There was Beaumont High School here in St. Louis. It's closed now. He didn't have anything to do with that, but it was named after him. But the interesting thing about that, in 1844, the Beaumont High School team had 5 major league players on it. One of them was Earl Weaver. He's from St. Louis. And you see the old cathedral there. About that old Missouri hotel back there, which is with the site where Raeder Place is on now. That was owned by Major Thomas Biddle, who was killed on Bloody Island in 1831. I don't know if I mentioned that. So that's the connection there. So here at this north end of the arch also, William Clark rented a cottage to Robert E. Lee, who also lived in this general area here. He lived here for several years while he was working on Bloody Island, attaching it to the Illinois side. So down there on the south end, that's where Laclede's mansion was, and then Choteau bought it after that. So here's the famous steps here in front of the arch. You see the Poplar Street Bridge down there. You see that's where they have riverboats and that. There was a McDonald's riverboat down here from 1980 to 2000, which was really neat, very popular. So you could get McDonald's on the riverboat. There's a helicopter tour pad, and that's the Eads Bridge there. National Historic Landmark. So we'll be seeing at least 2 on this tour. We're right by 2. That's the Eads Bridge and the Gateway Arch. There's the other one. Now, if we're able to go up in there, which is the plan, I think, that we may see more, but we're going to be a lot further away. So these are the steps here. Now I'm going to take a look here at this. Look at this plaque down here. Yeah, this is the plaque from the Great Flood of '93. This is how far it came up these steps. August 1st, 1993. The bottom of this plaque indicates the high water mark of the Great Flood of 1993. On this date, the Mississippi River reached 49.58 feet, the highest level ever recorded in the city of St. Louis. that's it. So this is where we're at. And there's more stairs down there. So it got very high. Here, I'll go down there and show you. So that water came all the way up all of this area. You see there's more cobblestone down here. In the day, that was a major upgrade. You know, cobblestone. Very durable. It could withstand the weather. It was easily replaced. You could pluck one out and put another one in. See the Eads Bridge over here, which is a real treasure, built before the Brooklyn Bridge. Okay. So head on up there and see what we can see here. That Lewis and Clark statue, it's down that way. Well, I could go look at that. Don't seem too far, I don't think. The first large structure made mostly of steel. Okay, so we can see them here. Yeah. Talks about the expedition. These are donations. Okay. Okay, so we'll head back up the steps here. So it's beautiful out here. So the arch, it opened in 1967. It was done by Eero Saarinen. He's Finnish architect. It's 630 feet high. It's as wide as it is tall. 630 feet wide as well. And it is the tallest man-made monument in the country. Taller than the Washington Monument, taller than the Space Needle, and all the rest. Over on that Illinois side over there, there's an earth cam that you can see the arch live 24 hours. Malcolm Martin Memorial Park is over there. In fact, it's about right. I have it about right in the middle of the screen where I can see the lookout. Now over there, he originally wanted to do something on that side as well. So Malcolm Martin helped bring that into reality, and they have the Gateway Geyser over there. And that is it's the tallest fountain in the country. It shoots up 630 feet to match the arch. Now it only goes off in the summertime though at noon for about 10 minutes. So I think it's dormant even now after Labor Day. But that's over there. Malcolm Martin. He was a World War II veteran. He helped plan the D-Day invasion, as a matter of fact. He was on the St. Louis Board of Education, and he helped found our local affiliate of public television, Channel 9 here in St. Louis, among other things that he did. So he was a philanthropist in that. So that's Malcolm Martin Park over there, and the Gateway Geyser. It shoots 630 feet. Now straight ahead, that's the old courthouse, which is also, I guess we'll go around this way. It's also part of this historic district. That's where the Dred Scott decision was, right there at the old courthouse. That's where his court cases were here until it went all the way to the Supreme Court in one of the worst decisions they've ever had. There is a statue of him and his wife out in front there, but we can't see that from here. That's also where Joseph Pulitzer bought the St. Louis Post-Dispatch at an auction in 1878. He was also a Missouri State Representative for a short time, Joseph Pulitzer, who was known for many awards in his name in a variety of subjects. Also at the old courthouse, the first Jewish Supreme Court justice was admitted to the bar there, Louis Brandeis. He was a lawyer in St. Louis for a short while. He was admitted to the bar there, and he ended up becoming the first Jewish Supreme Court justice. Now, right there, you see, that's the old cathedral. It's the Basilica of St. Louis, the King of France, also known as the Old Cathedral. Laclede and Choteau donated that land. There was a a different structure before that for a church. Now that's the second most popular church for weddings in the Catholic Church because of the great view down here. Number one is St. Francis Xavier Church, which is on the campus of St. Louis University, which is the first university west of the Mississippi River. But that's the old cathedral there. So, and this is again where we're at here. And the old courthouse is on land that was donated by Chouteau also, as well as Thomas Biddle's father. He owned part of that as well, and he donated that. And he had several sons that were killed. There's the old cathedral. Now a lot of the founders were buried around here also, and but they were moved to a couple of cemeteries up north, where most of all the founders are. They did not Pierre Laclede. He died near the Arkansas River. And not Madame Chouteau either. His partner. Her body wasn't found when they tried to excavate it around here. Well, we'll see what we got here. I'll put the mask on. Use the revolving door. Now over here, I'll show you this. I always find it interesting. There you see the top benefactors enterprise. They're usually always at the top. And you see many other companies as well. See, if you can see it from here, Don and Nancy Ross, they worked. He worked for Enterprise. So you see, but there's many other contributors as well. It's not all Enterprise, but they're a huge part of it. The Taylors. Okay, so think I'm gonna cut here for just a minute while I get these, try to get a ticket, and I might as well just cut here and I'll resume. Try not to let you miss anything. Okay, so we got our ticket. That was $12. For a weekday, $12. They have boat rides and all that stuff, combinations and all that different stuff. Okay, so we're down here in the museum part. As a matter of fact, there's Laclede and Shoto right there. Now this says February 15th. There is some debate over that. Some think it was on the 14th, Valentine's Day. That's what I always think of it as. So. And they were setting up a fur trading post. Well, even this is interesting down here. I didn't know exactly what I was going to encounter. I haven't been in here since they redid it. There is a lot of stuff. You could spend a lot of time in here, I'm sure. That's Madame Shoto there. Tools to build a colonial era house. Here's some wooden shoes. Wooden work shoes. Well, you could spend some time in here. So it's about noon. My ticket's for $12.15. Oh, this is interactive. Touch here to begin stagecoach stories. You can touch the screen to begin to learn about that. Huh. Well, it's really nice down here. Let's see what else I'm going to encounter. We got different dates on these things. This is the Riverfront era. Got some weapons and tools in there. Some information on Mark Twain. Yeah, you could spend more time in here. Some different artifacts. The busy Levy, touch here to begin. Another section over here.
Its story has been told in books, artwork, and Wild West shows. Theater presentations that supposedly showed what life was like in the American West were very popular during the early 1800s. One of the most famous of these early shows was the Indian gallery of artist George Catlin, which featured American Indian dancers who seemed to bring his paintings to life. This show toured throughout Europe in the 1840s. The first true Wild West show was opened by William F. Buffalo Bill Cody on May 19, 1883 in Omaha, Nebraska. Wild West shows played in arenas and racetracks. Part circus, part rodeo, and part historical pageant. They remained popular for nearly 60 years. Wild West shows depicted Indian attacks on wagon trains, stagecoach holdups, even the Battle of the Little Bighorn. Buffalo Bill was skilled in the use of
Smokestacks were a sign of prosperity. Whoever bring them up is usually
You got this section here.
The museum and to the outdoor cafe, where you all have well-deserved refreshments and a short rest. It is time for dinner, so you go down the terraces to the river restaurant. While you're
$1,
walking
where'd you
along
find
the
that?
arcade, you come to the court, where rules have their opinion.
I have this over time, yes. For me, it was anywhere from an hour and a half to 4 hours. But I was a secretary, so I had minutes afterwards. You just have to be there.
Talks about arrow seronin.
You mostly just have to be here for an hour. So the worst part is dragging yourself down. But that's it. Really changes. Stay. And we normally okay.
Oh, I see what this is doing. This is depicting how tall these things are. You see the Washington Monument, that's 555 feet, is what that says. And the rest of these things, Mount Rushmore, Independence Hall, Old Faithful, how tall they are. And the arch outdoes them all. The White House, 60 feet. Statue of Liberty, 305 feet. That ain't even close. And here's the Arch store. Let's see, I'm going up the South Tram, so that's the North Tram right to the top. And the South Tram, that's what my ticket's good for. There's the Arch Cafe. Okay, now I'm going to cut again just briefly.
Feel sideways or anything. So, those three things combined made the trams. So when they finished the arch in 1965, they went right ahead and worked on the trams. The North Tram was operational in 1967. This was in 1968, costing them $3.3 million. 8 cars, 5 seats in each one, traveling at an average speed of 3.86 miles an hour, which is pretty slow. So 4 minutes to get up.
Okay, so I cut some of that out. They talked a little bit about the history, and there was a small video. I don't really like to cut parts out. I like you to see the whole point of view experience, but I didn't have a lot of choice. I just had to move ahead to this. So they say it's about 4 minutes up and 3 minutes down. It is components of Ferris wheel, escalator, and elevator is what she said. That's how this tram goes up. Because obviously it's an arch that curves, so it's a little bit different, those components working together to get up there. So I'm going to cut out again for now, and I'll see you at the top. I can show you a little bit of this. So here we are on the way up. You can see here, there is a window, you know. So it is very small in here, you know. There's 5 seats, if I could show you. 1, 2, 3, and the one that I'm in, and another one over here, so there's 5. I'm a party of one, so I'm in here by myself. So it's kind of interesting here. I mean, you can see, you know, some equipment here as we go up. So I'm not going to keep you for four minutes though, so we'll just cut out. I'll see you up there. Of the Gateway Geyser. Oh, this is the Illinois side. There's the old courthouse. Now, one thing I did forget to mention was this is where Disney World was going to be. It was going to be just north of Busch Stadium, kind of in this area here. It was going to be called Walt Disney's Riverfront Square. And they were going to have a ride based on Davy Crockett and Mike Fink, a Western riverboat ride, and a Blue Bayou ride. Some of the he was considering coming here in 1964, and it got officially squashed in 1965. Because Gussie Busch wanted him to sell alcohol there. Walt Disney didn't want to. He was concerned about the weather in the winter, but it was going to be indoors, several stories tall. And some of the rides that are at Disney World in Orlando, you know, the idea originated here. So they had blueprints and all that stuff. So it was a serious consideration. There's a Blue Bayou ride. The rides that they have there, Pirates of the Caribbean and Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, those came from attractions that he was going to have here. So I did forget to mention that. So we almost had Disney World here. Walt Disney likes St. Louis. So here you see that that red building right there in the top right. That's the Wainwright Building. That's also a National Historic Landmark. Very important building. It's the first modern skyscraper. So you can see that. Stadium there.
Pass over your nose, please.
Let's see what else we got here.
Oh, yeah, we walk there. What?
Got the sway. It is real big.
Well, it hasn't affected me.
a thing about the Wainwright building, I thought.
Yeah, you can feel it.
I thought they had one of those things that point out the Wainwright building, which is that red building right there. Steel frame. Designed by Adler and Sullivan. Louis Sullivan. He used a steel frame. He's very famous. He was a mentor to Frank Lloyd Wright, who did Falling Water in Pennsylvania and the Guggenheim in New York. Louis Sullivan was a mentor to him, Frank Lloyd Wright. And so that's Louis Sullivan's work, the Wainwright Building, the first modern skyscraper right here in St. Louis. There's Busch Stadium, home of the Cardinals, 11 World Series championships, second only to the New York Yankees. The first one came in 1926 when Babe Ruth was thrown out trying to steal second base, which led to the Cardinals' first championship, tagged out by Rogers Hornsby. We'll talk more about that later. We'll go there another time.
Gentlemen, the tram is arriving. Please return to your tram cars in descending order with car 8 going first. Car number 8.
Very briefly, this is the Illinois side over here.
Car number 7.
That's the Gateway Geyser. Okay, it's time to go on again.
Okay, great. Thank you. Car number 6.
So we got 10 minutes. It went quick.
Car number 5.
10 minutes. It went pretty quick.
Car number.
There's another section over here. I don't know if I got this from the beginning. Here's Sacagawea right here. It's closed right now. They do tours there at the old courthouse, but there's that there's the Dred Scott statue there. Get a little closer to it. So up again, up the way there is the Eads Bridge. Now the thing I forgot to mention about that is they did have he had an elephant go over it, because it was said, you know, that an elephant doesn't want to walk on something they have intuition, they don't like to walk on something that's not stable. So they did lead an elephant across there when that was built. In 1874, they let an elephant across, starting on the Missouri side, going into Illinois. He also had a bunch of locomotives and things go across there to prove its stability. And also underneath there is where W.C. Handy wrote the St. Louis Blues, the famous composition, which is played before every St. Louis Blues hockey game. It was very popular in the early 1900s. I guess I can take my mask off out here. You might be able to hear better. And he was homeless at the time, and he was living under the Eads Bridge when he wrote that. And he heard another homeless woman say that her man had a heart like a rock. Something like that went into that song. He had lice on his shirt once, and he took it off and threw it into the river from the. We were having so much fun we ran out of juice there. So just to finish this tour up, this is Raeder Place. This was built in 1873. This is where the Missouri Hotel was before this, which was owned by Major Thomas Biddle, who was killed on Bloody Island in 1831. Now the back part of this building, this was built as an addition onto it in 1899, and it housed the Christian Pepper Tobacco Company, which is now the Pepper Lofts, which we need. These are really nice, very popular, and there'll be more development down here, and we need more housing and things like that down here. There's the arch. Now under here, I was saying W.C. Handy, he had lice on his shirt, and he took it off and threw it into the river, and someone thought he was going to commit suicide, so they gave him a meal and they helped him when he did that. That's what I was mentioning before, who wrote the St. Louis Blues. There's one other building that I forgot to mention. Let me go up here, see if I can see it better from up here. Okay, this building right here, the Witt Hardware building right here, it had an electric elevator inside, so it was known for that. They sold hardware and some guns that are still real popular today, collector's items. We're right down here on Laclede's Landing. There's the Hoffman Brothers Produce Building that we talked about earlier. There's the old cast iron building. That was also built in 1873. I'm gonna head back down there again just to get a better view of a couple of things. I'm gonna cut out and come right back again. Okay, so there's that old Union Electric power plant again. That is Beaux-Arts architecture. I forgot to mention that. And there you can see the Stan Musial Veterans Memorial Bridge. This is where we were before at the Four Seasons. We were right there on that next to it. We couldn't get the angle on the a good angle on the Stan Musial Bridge there, So that's where we were. That's the Lumiere casino there. And that's their hotel right there. So, and behind that is where Raeder Place is, where the Missouri Hotel was. That's the Martin Luther King Bridge right there. That opened in 1951. Stan Musial Bridge, that opened in 2014. So that's going to be the end of this tour of the Laclede's Landing, and we went all the way down to the Gateway Arch and the Riverfront. That's the arch just beyond the hotel building there. You see the very top of it. Okay, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you like it. Thanks.